On today's video, I'm going to share my custom Framemeister profiles for the Game Boy Player using the ever-elusive GameCube component cables. While there are alternative options for playing Game Boy Advance game packs on the GameCube, such as the Game Boy interface software using the SD Media Launcher from Code Junkies, today's video will focus on Nintendo's official software solution. It's also worth noting the GameCube component cables are extremely expensive, but these expensive cables are the only way to get 480p video out of the GameCube. Of course, the Framemeister does not have component video input, so you'll also need a D-terminal to component adapter cable. Before we get started, let me get a few things out of the way. First, as of this video, the most recent version of the Framemeister firmware is 2.03a, so I'm going to assume you are using this firmware. Next, you should reset all of your settings by going to Data Reset from the Framemeister menu. This should reset everything to their default values, but won't change any of your previously saved profiles. Next, on the Game Boy Player software itself, change the border frame to number 20, which is a black border. Set the screen size to normal, and set the screen filter to sharp. Moving on, I'm going to offer two different profiles, beginning with a 1080p profile and then a 720p profile. I also prefer integer scaling, meaning each and every pixel is the same exact size. First up is a perfect 6x scale. Here, all 160 rows or vertical resolution are visible, which is desirable for most Game Boy Advance games. The compromise here is a black border on the top and bottom of the screen in exchange for perfectly even pixels. So with that, here are my 1080p 6x settings. Next, let's move on to my 720p profile. This may be useful if your television only supports 720p resolutions, or if you're like me and can only capture 60 frames per second video at 720p. These settings will give you a perfect 4x scale. However, again, there will be a black border along the top and bottom of the screen. So with that, here are the 720p settings that I use. While the Game Boy Player software is not very good, featuring soft video output and dingy colors, these settings should give you an adequate experience on the big screen.